startups. I think this is the right ecosystem that we firmly believe in, that we need to rely upon to continue to push our own business, EDP's business, forward, and to be able to deliver on our ambition to lead the energy transition. So we are at a point that really demands, more than adaptation. It seems like we're halfway through the energy transition, but we're probably still very much at the beginning. And when this is the time and this is the stage at which we're at, it really is more than adapting. It will require reinventing. And so I hope that you have a great session, a great day, and that you come to this session, to this open day, with the attitude to challenges, to be bold, to be brave, and to take this agenda forward. Have a great session.
Well, thank you, Vera, for setting the stage. Indeed, today is a celebration of the Energy Starter Program and the innovation activity at EDP. Just to get a sense in the room, who here is joining us or joining this event for the first time? Can you please raise your hand? Oh, cool. More than half of the room is joining us for the first time. Thank you for joining. And I think now it's time then to really understand how EDP innovation is structured and to get a glimpse on the activity that we have been doing. So I'd like to introduce Tomás Moreno, Head of Innovation Ecosystem, that will guide us through this journey. Let's welcome Tomás.
Thank you, André. Thank you, Vera. Thank you for the kind words. It's really exciting to be here. We work all year with startups and with startup engagement, looking for new projects, looking for new initiatives, piloting, executing, rolling out, finding interesting investments. And this is the time where we can share all this with the community. So it's very exciting to bring all this together, present some of the startups, present some of our colleagues that are working on these projects, and also have some interesting debates, which hopefully will be lively. My mission here today is to tell you a little bit about EDP, which I imagine most of you already know, but also about the ecosystem engagement and in particular the Energy Starter Program. So first of all, EDP at a glance. We're a vertically integrated energy utility with presence in Portugal, Spain, and Brazil in terms of generation, distribution, and retail. We're also present in another 26 countries with renewable assets. That's mostly wind and solar. In fact, for those of you that don't know, EDP is one of the 5 largest wind producers in the world, with a total of around 30 gigawatts of installed energy, of which nearly 90% is green energy, and we're hoping to make that all green by 2030. Why am I stressing this? Because it's part of the mission for all of us here, for society at large, to electrify and decarbonize. I know I'm preaching to the choir, especially in this room. These are the facts. We have to do this. The bad news is we're pretty much missing every single target that we've established, and we're doing that systematically. We need to be faster. We need to do it better, and the only way to do that is through innovation. We basically have to revolutionize an industry that was static for 100 years. We have all these challenges, and the only way to do it is through new processes, new technologies, new ways of thinking, new ways of organizing, new ways of challenging ourselves and others. We now have renewable energy being put into a much more dynamic grid, and we have clients who are sophisticated. They don't just get a bill at the end of the month and hopefully pay for it. The good news is there are ways of doing this. McKinsey, and in consultants we trust, says that 70% of CO2 abatement can come from more or less 15 known technologies. 15 known technologies. We still have to worry about the 30%. Those are technologies that have to be developed. The known technologies is what we at EDP Innovation tend to focus on. But that doesn't mean that it's a done deal. It means that we have to focus on scale. We have to focus on speed. It means that we have to focus on commercial viability. It needs that we need to focus on the implementation of these technologies. And This is why the purpose of EDP Innovation is to accelerate new and impactful businesses and promote fast adoption of innovative solutions to lead the energy transition. Promote fast adoption of innovative solutions. We want to adopt quickly solutions that are already out there in the market. We want a best-of-breed architecture, and we are very aware that we can't go it alone. And the only way to do that is to integrate with the best people out there. And a lot of that is startups. So, bear with me with this slide. It took a while to build it, but it gives you an idea of how we're organized. Firstly, a little bit of our commitments. We've committed over €1 billion in TOTEX for the 2023-2026 program in terms of innovation investment and $2 billion in digitization. So that's real money that the EDP group is committing to this transition. We have around 150 people focused on innovation across the multiple geographies, and we have 5 innovation hubs in our key geographies. How do we organize ourselves? We're divided within EDP Innovation across these 4 platforms: renewables, client solutions, energy management, and networks. And you'll be hearing from them a little bit later, from the heads of these departments, which are our industry experts. They are the teams at EDP Innovation who try to understand where the trends are going, and they try to help us find what are the technologies, what are the startups that can help us get there. Then we have these 4 teams that are outward-looking. We have the innovation ecosystem, of which the Energy Startup Program is a part of, and we'll go into a little bit more detail about that. We have our CVC, our Venture Capital Fund, who's been active for over a decade now with over 30 investments, some of them quite successful, a series of exits. And for the startups in the room, they obviously are CVC, so they focus on energy, on the energy sector. But they've evolved from seed investment to Series A investment. The sweet spot is now between 1 million and 5 million, and they're in the room. Search them out during the break because they're wanting to meet the startups in the room and the startups in the ecosystem. Finally, also, internal delivery. This is our venture builder. What we do is what we find here, this team finds blind spots in the market. We know that our idea is that if we see a problem, someone's probably been working on it for a while and doing it better than we can possibly do. So we search out those solutions. In the cases where we see that there's a blind spot in the market, we try to put pieces together through academia, startups, other corporates, to find and develop a solution for EDP, for whatever need, whatever challenge occurs. And finally, our R&D team. Our R&D team is focused more on technology, while innovation is focused more on problems. They're looking at lower TRLs, longer time horizons, more uncertainty, and for that reason, they work a lot in collaboration with other players, and they tend to work with public funds to help forward the energy transition. So, what do we do at the ecosystem team? We fast adopt innovation, as I was mentioning, and we do that through partnership development, through corporates, and we're going to have a big session this afternoon with corporates to try to co-create, and this is what we try to do, co-create. And we do it with academia, and we do it with startups. A big part of what we do with startups is we source them. We first understand what our challenges are, what our problems are. We source the startups, and then we validate their technologies through pilots, and always with a view to rolling them out. Pilot is never the end game. We want to roll them out and produce value for the business units. On top of this, there's always the venture capital fund looking for opportunities with these startups. How do we source? We have many, many, many tools to source, but startup engagement programs are key. We have free electrons, which we'll deep dive for a couple slides, but we have, Energy Starter. We have free electrons, which is our big flagship sister program, and a shout out to E.ON and ESB that are in the room, along with 5 other utilities. We have created a program which is global and which engages with cutting-edge startups across the world, giving them the opportunity to streamline business development with these multiple utilities at once. So, a little bit of a history about Energy Starter. As is the case with most things, it wasn't just born an adult. It started about 15 years ago with the knowledge that we had no idea what we were doing. To the point that we partnered with the Richard Branson Foundation to create the first startup award prize here in Lisbon. We took a few learnings from that. One is we had to focus. Our programs could not be industry agnostic. What was coming out of these awards was too early stage. It was basically PowerPoint. And probably the most important learning from that moment in time was we did not want innovation theater. There's no point in bringing a bunch of startups together, taking a great picture and then doing nothing. It's not adding value to the startups, and it's not adding value to our company. So with the understanding that these companies were very, very early stage, we moved into the incubation phase. We created an incubator, and we were very focused on mentoring and on helping these entrepreneurs go up to create MVPs. We did that for a while, and we went at it again. We said, no, what we have to do is, A, go global. We can't be focused only on our key geographies where we're present, Portugal and Spain essentially at the time. And we have to do this with a process. We have to industrialize serendipity. It's great if you find a startup, you engage with it, and you create a rollout. But you need to do this time and time again, and you need to do it successfully. You will fail many, many times, but you have to find a way to fail as little as possible. So this is when we created our first funnel, we went global, and we started to look at pilot-ready solutions. We then moved to a phase where we went geolocal, where we decided we're going to go to the geographies. So we had modules in Europe, in South America, and in North America. And finally, after COVID, we totally revamped the program to what we have now and what Vera was mentioning. So we now cover the entire energy value chain with 3 tracks. One is renewables and energy, one is client solutions and mobility, and the one that just occurred here this week is Future Grids. We have 8 startups from Future Grids that will be pitching today, and another 5 from the other modules, which hopefully can show you some of these cutting-edge technologies. Our funnel, to give you an idea, and the way we've industrialized serendipity is through knowledge. Multiple iterations, multiple contacts, taking a lot of time from our business units, but ensuring that we give them back through productive solutions. And from hundreds and hundreds of applications and meetings, we come down to 29 startups in these years, 3 editions. Just to finish off, and I'm already exceeded my time, and I'm getting the cross eye here from Margarida and André, to note that we've been able to do this in multiple geographies, so the program, the modules in the US, in Brazil, in Portugal and Spain, and in Singapore. In doing so, we engage with the local ecosystems, but also bring a culture of innovation to the business units, which is very important. It shouldn't be only the innovation teams that are innovating. Everyone has to do so. Everyone has to look around every day and see what is wrong and what can we do better, and we try to inspire our people in that form. And the numbers on the side. We try to always show that we don't only talk the talk, we also walk the walk. These are numbers only from the Energy Starter programs. We double them with our other programs. So over 24 million in commercial agreements, 15 venture capital investments, and 28 rollouts, 75 pilots over the past few years. This is why we're here. This is why we do what we do. And it's great to be able to be with you here today. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Tomás, for introducing what EDP has been doing if I have to highlight something, is how we have been moving the Energy Starter program and the way we approach innovation from an incubation-driven approach to a business development approach. And the way that Tomás was sharing that, this allows us to better understand how can we capitalize the startups' technologies and how can we actually turn that into actual pilots and rollouts that can be then valued by the different, both the startups and EDP. So now it's time to move to our first panel, which will be about AI as an innovation tool. And as I need to fill out some time until they put all the chairs here, allow me to ask you something. How many of you, by raising your hand, have used any sort of ChatGPT-like tool? If you have, please raise your hand. Now, if you haven't, is there anyone? I know one or two people from EDP that I can see from here that typically don't use. But I think from now, and nowadays everyone uses AI tools as a way to increase productivity, and that's a bit what we want to approach with our panel today. Really what we will try to understand together with our panelists is how AI has been influencing the way we work, the way we live, but also what's the role that humans play in this collaboration with AI. AI is not replacing what we do, but it can be an enabler, it can be a tool. I couldn't imagine a world where we would do all these virtually. We couldn't do an energy starter program with AI. I mean, we could, but instead of seeing each other's faces, we would see bots and avatars, which could be fun, but I think this way we will enjoy it very much. So now I think I can start introducing the panel, and allow me to call on stage the moderator for today that then will guide us through this panel. So it's my pleasure to welcome Fátima Caçador, editor at Sapotec, that will guide us through these next 40 minutes. Fátima, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the presentation. And now I'll have the great pleasure to call on stage Diana Costa, the panel that will be with me. Diana Costa is coordinating global digital acceleration in EDP, focusing on digital transformation and driving data AI strategy across the business platform. Welcome, Diana. Now I'll call on stage Rodrigo Nauna Fonseca. He's the founder of Futura. Also applauses. We want applauses. Well, Rodrigo has a deep experience and expertise in risk, cybersecurity, data protection, digital transformation, and I try to summarize everything that you do, and you too, Diana, because it's not easy. Thank you, Rodrigo. Now I will call Manuel Tanger. He's the founder of Beta AI, an organization. I think you all know the organization. Is actively promoting entrepreneurship and innovation, and he leads the area of innovation also. Thank you. Well, we had this very, very interesting first phase and the presentation from EDP. It was great to see the numbers. And now we're going to talk of AI as an innovation tool. Everyone is using, I didn't see on the back, but I didn't see anyone raising the hand saying that it didn't use the artificial intelligence tools. ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, whatever. But anything, I think everyone is using nowadays. And if you're not, please start doing it. Please. Well, we know that innovation is based on future things that we think about, and also AI, we didn't think that it would come so fast and probably with such a deep transformation as it is. So we need to talk about it, we need to start using it, and not letting anything down. So we'll start with the first question, and you'll be the better people to talk about it. Please, I'll start with you, Diana. Beyond this hype and buzzwords of AI and everything that now we are using, how will you define the role of AI in innovation nowadays?
Well, especially for EDP, and as many of us have mentioned it before today, we firmly believe that AI will transform the way we do our business and will actually help us to accelerate on our ambition, that is to lead the energy transition. So it is actually helping our business to be done in a more accelerated way, where we can enhance the capabilities of our people with the capabilities of AI that can accelerate all the analytical part, and jointly with our intuition and all the expertise that we have in-house. We have many years of experience in the energy market, as we all know. So it will boost innovation, and it will boost transformation in our daily lives. And so we firmly believe, and we are accelerating throughout our business. We have updated our data and AI strategy recently, and have defined the 7 AI big bets that we will invest across the company, that will go from our value chain, from generation, trading, retail, distribution, to global services and operations, hyper-automation, and to also help on boosting the productivity of our people, so that everyone can raise their hand when they ask, have you used AI on your daily life? And we've been working in all of these pillars across the company.
Thank you, Diana. Rodrigo, passing the microphone to you. So do you think also, of course, this is an accelerator, unlocking creativity. How would you define the way that AI can be used in innovation? Or can you share also something that you are already using?
Thank you, Fatima. I will make a joke for a start. AI as microphones are a scarce resource. So the first thing that we need to highlight is that, I'm not talking about technician part. You are best technician than me. But maybe in the last 2 years, I saw in different companies, because we are working a lot with different companies in the AI Act, which is a law. But I'm learning more about operations than law, because we are seeing so many different use cases. So we classified in the last 6 months more than 200 different use cases. So it's interesting to see how companies are adapting in their operations the AI. And AI is a scarce resource, okay? We are not going to be able to have all AI that we want, because we don't have chips. Second, because we don't have water. Second, because we don't have energy, okay? So by the end, we have here the dilemma of the Pareto law, which is 20% of the tools will probably solve 80% of the needs. So what I'm seeing is a lot of mistakes, okay? A lot of cliches using AI. So during this session, I think it will be interesting to see first, AI is not a technological problem by now, okay? So the type of AI that we have is already powerful. The difficult part is how we can embrace this in our daily operations, how can we make it work, and how we are going to align this with our values, okay? Because we have ethical values, we have strategical values, we have sustainability, we have different layers that we need to align with technology. And this is where innovation is when we are able to take something that is useful, okay, but is just potentially useful, and make things happen, okay? So then during the session, I will share a few examples that I saw, and I will share my experience and my vision. It's just an opinion, okay? I don't want to make law on this, but I think this is an opinion based on evidence in the state of the art. And we know that most of you that are starting to create something, sometimes you lack this visibility about reality, and this is what I want to share. So I will pass the scare resource.
Thank you, Rodrigo. And Tomás, what is your vision about innovation and AI? And I know that you are on the field, talking with a lot of startups also, working on this area, and well, looking a lot on innovation. Of course, you have an opinion about how AI can help or transform.
Absolutely. Thank you, Fatima. Actually, so we do innovation, and part of the process is looking at how we can use AI in the process. Now, you mentioned that there's a lot of hype in AI. I think AI is actually completely, massively underhyped. We think it's going to be incredible. It's going to be massively much more than that. And we are not seeing the use cases that will eventually break through because we were at the early stages, just like we didn't know what the internet was going to bring when we started first doing the internet. Now, the innovation process that we follow, that is generally known, has different phases, right? We get to know what users want and need, so even internally, then we generate ideas, then we look and try to find solutions and ideate also on solutions, then okay, we select a few, and on those we try to experiment on which ones have more practicality and adhesion, and then we scale that. At every point of this innovation phase, AI is completely revolutionizing everything. Take, for example, users. You might assume that, what, I need humans to know what humans want, right? Well, maybe not. You have a startup in Porto, for example, called Synthetic Users, which generates by the thousands, by the millions if you want, users, people that have desires, wants, needs, and instead of calling out 100 people, doing interviews, lasting months, spending thousands of euros, you can actually do millions of interviews for a fraction of the cost and get opinions on what humans want without the need of humans. So that's synthetic users, the first part. Then you go, okay, we've mapped out problems that are worth being solved. Let's try to find solutions, ideation. Humans are super creative. So AI is super creative on steroids. And we generate 100 ideas in a group of experts. AI generates 10,000 ideas with different points of views, with different techniques. And so we massively increase the creativity pool that we have. Great. Now we need to cluster that. That's a laborious process. If anybody, EDP Innovation has done that for a while, it takes time, it's not perfect. AI is great at doing that. So, and I can go on through the process. Every step of the process is being upended, revolutionized, completely enhanced by the use of AI. Not improved, completely upended, right? So I think it's going to change, and if we have the same conversation in 5 years' time, how is AI influencing innovation, we will have a completely different conversation, because we will be more at the idea, intuition stage, and AI will be doing pretty much all the rest.
Yeah,
that's my idea.
Looking at the pace of acceleration, I don't think it will take 5 years. It will take probably 6 months. We'll have another very different conversation on this. Well, a lot of topics, very interesting. We'll take care of each one. Very interesting things that you said, and we want to get in deep more. But now, Diana, I would like you to comment on, thank you, to comment on deeper about the plan on ADP and the data AI strategy that you mentioned. What are you doing now, and what can we expect in the following months?
Well, we have updated our strategy based on 4 pillars. We have a renewed ambition on being the leader in our sector in AI. We have defined our roadmap of initiatives with the AI big bets. We are investing, doubling down our investment in the data foundations and also on change management. So a little bit deeper on these two. AI is as good as the data we have underneath it, as we all know. So we are deeply investing in cataloging all of our data across our business platforms to ensure that what we will be doing on top of our data actually has the most accurate answers. This is a sector that, yes, we can have AI to help us, but we cannot have that many hallucinations, as in, for instance, asking ChatGPT to help us build an email. It can hallucinate, nothing bad will happen, but we cannot afford to those types of errors. So we're strongly working with our data management teams across the platforms in having all of our data accurate. Across the big bets, we have what we call digital acceleration chapters. So we have the global digital acceleration within the digital global unit, and also the digital accelerators that work closely with the business platforms in identifying opportunities to transform the business and where can we apply AI. A few examples, we are identifying opportunities with having fieldwork assistants that accelerate our technicians into finding the solutions to a given error in the turbines, in our equipments, and whatever. So we still have the human, but the human will be much more efficient in doing their job and having people freeing their time to do more valuable tasks or to correct more errors, rather than spending time trying to find the technical manuals and all that, because we can just ask our assistant and it will tell us based on the technical manuals and history of corrections, what are the solutions. So this is just an example on how are we trying to accelerate things. On top of this, as it will actually transform the way we do our daily work, so we have a series of actions in change management and adoption and upskilling. We are working across our leaders, our technical experts, and our employees as a whole. And we have Gen AI trainings for the whole organization so that everyone is comfortable in having AI. We have deployed our own ChatGPT, which is mine for EDP, so that everyone, it has around a year and a half, everyone can use it. So there's nothing with the licenses. We also have the licenses being attributed. For some tools, we want people to be comfortable using AI and experimenting and see its potential and all that. For our tech experts, we're investing in what we call the Global Black Belts program, ensuring that our experts are certified and training in AI so they can actually accelerate and develop our products in AI and delivering the solutions to the business. And of course, managers. For the same reason, but also to have them as enablers of their teams in using AI and facing the challenge that AI and understanding AI. AI will be as common as using email, and I haven't written as many emails as 5 years ago, so this will happen for sure. So it's important that people are not afraid of using it.
Yeah, and training is a very important phase. You are doing also a lot of training and getting literacy
on this. We have Gen AI masterclasses where we put together teams that bring their own problems. Okay, how can I solve this using what we have as tools? They're very productive, and we have seen increased satisfaction in using AI and taking advantage of it.
Yeah, going beyond the thing that is calling, what should I do in my next vacations? That's something that most people ask to ChatGPT. Rodrigo, I know that you are also involved in some projects regarding AI. You've mentioned it. Can you share some of the most interesting use cases that you've seen?
Yes, the first thing is that I'm seeing lots of good use cases based on operations. Okay, so when you want to make an operation simpler, okay, you can take advantage of AI. For example, AI, of course, is creating lots of disruptions, but it's also giving more life expectancy to legacy. Okay, for example, I saw a small robot that was taking data from one system to another that has lacks of interoperability, and this was with human resources, which was really boring. Nobody deserves to do that, okay? So they were able to just, in a simple solution, okay, reduce workforce in 200 people, okay? Putting these people making things that are more interesting, okay? At the same time, giving more life expectancy to legacy. So at the same time, sometimes we think that this will be just a disruption, and it will be. But I love this case. Why? Because it was simple, it was cheap, and it was saving lots of money. Okay, and it was taking out pressure just to solve this technological issue. It was a bank, okay, because we know banks have lots of legacy. Okay? And sometimes just to change management is really difficult. Then AI is really efficient even in operations, integrating different layers of data, for example, voice, image, and text. Okay? So, for example, for operations in the street, things that ADP, of course, it has, you can put voice in the loop. So imagine that you have a visit to a home. Okay, and normally people had to feed a file. They just feed this late. Call center didn't receive. Now people can just speak, and AI is giving you a layer of integration fast into the loop. Okay, and this is so efficient you cannot imagine. Okay, so we see lots of amazing use cases in call centers, in operations, marketplace. You cannot imagine how difficult it is for a retailer, for example, to management post-sales, okay, and to have 360 visibility about all that happens in the process of buying. So this capacity to integrate different layers in a comprehensive vision and fast is amazing, and is with an amazing level of accuracy. The third layer that is really interesting also is reducing silos. Okay? Especially in Portugal, we know that many companies, they have lots of difficulties to integrate. And AI helps a lot to reduce silos. And this is, at the same time, quite efficient. The capacity to just guarantee that everyone is in the loop fast, okay, is also really interesting. Then, of course, everything that regards with data analytics is getting better and better and better every day, and we don't know how to stop. And then we have our own case as a company that in governance, in law and compliance and stuff, we start integrating AI on this, and I can assure you that the productivity increased by 10. Okay? So AI will be in the future the best ally to guarantee compliance. Today, compliance is boring, is inefficient, nobody likes. We start claiming that we have to fill this for compliance, then we have to fill the expenses, and we start working at 3. Okay? Because the first hours of the day is filling stuff for others, which was something that technology creates, was this capacity to put in our own tasks that in the past belonged to others. Okay? AI will speed up a lot these small tasks that we have in our daily basis that are so difficult to comply. So it will be our best support to our own productivity. So this is also something that it will be quite disruptive. So for sure, you will all know and see many innovations that, of course, are disruptive, like the ones that Tomás presents. My idea also was to give you the focus that the most important part today is to guarantee that AI is able to solve a problem. Okay? And the first thing is not thinking about AI, because AI is just a buzzword, it's just a technology. But when you think, in your case, think what problem you are able to solve, and if the market and companies are able to adopt your solution. Okay? And before thinking about the technical solution, thinking about the problem. And when people think about the problem and of the solution, okay, then AI will be able to balance with all the values that we discussed before.
Yeah. You mentioned one thing about the change management and the boring work that we will not have to do, but you know, sometimes everyone likes to do a little bit of boring work and not accelerate 200% every time. Do you think that will be a problem?
We will discuss later on also that, which is technology is not a bottleneck today. So we talk about scarce resources already. The second one is the people, okay? And we need to respect the timing of the people and the capacity of the people to absorb this change, okay? And the main difficulty today is how we can put human in the loop. How can we guarantee that we have AI as an assistant? And how do we change and we choose the proper solutions and we decide what are the processes that we are not going to change? Okay? We are not able to have, as we said, all AI in the world. So we need to be clear about first what is the type of AI that we want and what is the type of traditional procedures that we want to maintain. Not making publicity, NOS operator, they create an amazing approach to attendance, saying, we don't have AI in call centers, we have a person, okay? And I don't know if you try to call to the competitors of NOS, and speaking with a bot today is not nice, okay? So sometimes it's better just, they said that they remove Prima 1 and Prima 2, the Primas. And yes, sometimes we have to go back. Okay, and sometimes we are trying to push so much innovation in the pipeline, and it's so ridiculous the way that we have today AI in call centers. Stop that. Okay, it's not working. It's not fancy. It's not modern. Maybe we prefer to speak with someone that will be able to solve, and maybe that person will have AI in the screen, and he will have 36% vision of my process and will answer me in 10 minutes or 5 minutes instead of 1 hour, 5 or 6 calls, okay? So be clever also when you choose person and when you choose technology. Okay?
Thank you. Manuel, you mentioned that the disacceleration of every process. Do you think that AI will have the possibility for people that have new ideas to create startups easier, and for innovation teams in companies to be faster in getting to the product, following all the steps of innovation?
Yeah. So without question. And I think we're in phase 1 of AI adoption, which is we're looking at our current problems, our current issues, and we say, okay, how can we alleviate the boring tasks? How can we enhance what we do? How can we speed it up 10x? And that's great. That will bring a whole different level of execution performance, and it has to be done because, but that's just the first phase. That's solving problems that currently exists. And with all these efficiency gains, what will we do with all the time and mental space that we have from people that were actually solving them beforehand, those tedious tasks and things? Well, then we get into the second phase of AI adoption, which is the generative part. Not generative AI, but generative of ideas, of solutions, of businesses. And that's what I think is really the key, is we have to get into AI, making sure it can add value that didn't exist before, right? We start doing things that we never thought we could do before AI. That's the leap. It's great to have efficiency. We all want it. I haven't seen one company say, oh, we'll skip the AI revolution. We'll go get on the next one. That doesn't happen. I mean, this one, everybody is on board. And the first steps, and we're seeing it across industries, is there's some hesitancy, there's some misunderstanding or non-full understanding of how to use it, how to implement, what the best approach is, what technology, what areas, lots of questions. And that's actually one of the reasons Beta E is actually becoming Beta AI almost, and that was actually quite fortunate, because that's where we're all kind of headed, and in developing this phase 0, for phase 1 if you want. But really, the revolution is the next step, is where the new businesses will develop. We haven't thought about them. We'll have many more ideas to try out. We'll have automated validation of these ideas. There's even a startup called Validator AI. There are some that are popping up. We went to San Francisco about a month ago, and I forget the name of the startup. I was trying to remember. And they're kind of putting the whole process from concept idea up to what your business model will look like in the end using AI. And it has about 10, 12 steps. Of course, it interacts with us, and the idea is really generative, right? It's new. It's not doing old things better. It's doing new things, new ways, and bringing new value. And that's, I think, where all the value will come, and it's still hazy, which is great, because that's innovation. Innovation is fuzzy at the beginning, right? And then we clear it out because we try things, and AI is going to accelerate that process. How to do it? Doing it. And we're all learning in the process. We're all learning how to use it in our day-to-day jobs. We're all learning how it integrates in our different steps. And little by little, we're getting into this phase 2. And that's, I think, the big gain.
Yeah, there are still some bottlenecks, as we've mentioned. Also, we could talk about ethics, because it's a problem. Where are the boundaries for AI, for developing the AI? Where are the boundaries for using AI in replace of people? Where can we use AI? How can we not have hallucinations? What do you think are the most difficult bottlenecks to get on?
So AI is an exponential technology, but it's a supra-exponential technology. So it's even faster than Moore's Law. Moore's Law basically says that every 12 to 18 months, computing processing doubles in capacity. Amazing. Exponential growth since the 60s and before. Fantastic. AI is 2 to 3 times faster. Every 6 months, it's doubling in cognition and in capabilities in different ways of measuring it. 6 months, it's doubling the performance. So the problems that we see today, sure, sometimes it hallucinates and there's a reference that doesn't exist. That's kind of just wait 6 months. That's going to be solved, if not completely, mostly. And if you wait 6 more months, you won't even remember you had that problem in the first place. So it's getting very fast, very good, very fast. So the barrier of capability, it's just a question of start implementing, not perfect, going to be great in very, very fast. Before you know, when you start talking to your teams on how to use it, it's already gotten almost really good. In terms of ethics, and that's a really hard problem, is the alignment problem, which is basically how can we make sure that AI, mostly when it becomes an agentic version of it, when it starts taking decisions, when you give it authority to move forward without your consent because you trust the model, how do we make sure the objectives of the AI are aligned with our human objectives? Because it can go wrong in unforeseen ways very quickly. Now, we're not there yet, and we have a lot of people working on that. And it's so funny that, it's that funny, not funny type of thing, where it's hard for us as humanity to know what's actually best for us. If we did, we'd instruct the model, say, do that, because that's what, good for everybody. There is no good for everybody. And what's not good for everybody may be pretty bad for a group of people, unacceptable. So it's an issue that we're getting into the new phase, the agentic phase of AI, where it will take decisions because we trust it enough to do certain things, narrow at the beginning, growing with confidence. I think we'll crack it. And I think, again, there's a loop here, AI will help us understand what the limits are. Kind of maybe counterintuitive, but I think that's a path forward.
Yeah. Rodrigo, I know that you have some things that you think that are physical boundaries that you mentioned also.
Yes, and I just want to add a stop here, which is one of the big mistakes about AI is that we are lazy. Okay, so we think that it will think for us, and we forget to give context. That way, it doesn't hallucinate many times. Sometimes, imagine that you have just a trainee, and you don't give him good instructions. He will hallucinate. He's really clever, okay? But if you don't give context, if you don't give rules, then you will hallucinate. There's a concept in agentic which is memory is architecture, okay? And one of the things that we will have to substitute is less prompts and more architecture. And most of this technology, which is mainly LLMs, they just serve as an instrument to create verticals. And in the verticals, we need to just give small tasks in sequence where we will teach AI what is able to do or not, step by step. So it's not about AI understanding us, it's the opposite. And this is the main disruption, and this is the most difficult part, which is we will have to change the way we think to align ourselves with the way that software is created, okay? That's why, for example, I'm joining people from philosophy, from humanities to work with AI, because we don't need already Python knowledge, okay? We need people that is able to understand how can you deframe a thinking, okay, and create sections where you give instructions to this new trainee that is powerful, but it needs lots of roles. So forget AI as a search machine, okay? AI is not Google. AI is a different way to think where we will have to spend lots of time structuring the way he will think step by step, like an Excel. Okay? But we are lazy. We prefer just to put everything on ChatGPT and ask him, solve me fast what I want, even if I don't know what I want. Okay? And of course he will hallucinate. That's why this is a huge mistake, and that's why we need to train people. And when we talk about focus on people, it's not just teaching them to create prompts. It's a lot about understanding technology and understanding the way that we will different thinking and create verticals, because this is Darwinistic. Most of the people will not be able to make this, okay? I work with cyber, and it's a disruption for some people just not to use an email and start sharing documents on SharePoint. They say, it's quite difficult. These people will not be able to different thinking. Okay? That's why we'll need verticals. So there's a huge room of space for those who will create usabilities for others. Okay? Being able to make things easy to use. Okay? And this is, and sorry, it's about taking advantage of the time, but this was something that I'm focusing a lot. The next big challenge is how we create verticals that are able to democratize the use of AI without going directly to ChatGPT, okay? Because most of the people, ChatGPT is a Ferrari, and most of the people, they are not able to drive, they are not Ayrton Senna or Alan Prost. Okay, I'm old, this is my references, okay?
Thank you. Diana, what do you see the evolution of agentic AI, especially agentic AI, in the area of development in a company like EDP? Because probably you are looking at this process of making decisions also with AI.
We are looking into this. We are actually creating or looking into creating specialized agents, maybe the verticals that Rodrigo is mentioning, because they're more straight to the point. We are, based on our Mind for EDP, which is our internal ChatGPT, we are productizing it to be focused in certain areas. We have recently launched the Mind for Compliance, and this is an agent to assist on our compliance team into answering internal inquiries on policies and doubts that people have. And we are doing this, start doing this for a lot of teams. We will get to the point where agents will talk within themselves
Aging, controlling agents, controlling agents.
And we're looking into that at the same time that we are looking into IT architecture issues and all of the compliance, security, cybersecurity rules that we have to address as the company that we are, to make sure that agents do not take too many decisions by themselves, and they're actually helping our people to do their work and to accelerate on the things that we want to do. We have also recently finished our responsible AI project. We have set 10 golden rules that AI solutions must obey within the company. We have marked our AI applications in risk matrix so that we have different things that are just easy, but we will have AI delving with critical data, of course. So we have to have all these rules in place so that there are boundaries throughout. But just adding up to this, we have a lot of legacy in our company, as you may imagine. I'm part of that legacy. I've been at ADP for quite a while right now. Part of that, and people say, okay, legacy sometimes as a less positive part of the business. Part of our legacy is having humans that love to question our status quo. We have a lot of good people within our company that are not comfortable. We obviously are an engineering company. We have a lot of processes that have a long time, 40 plus years, and we also have a lot of people that even they are in the company for a long time, they like to question, how could we do this better? How could we do this faster? How could we free up time to be more creative in other areas of our work? And this is an incredible mix that we have at ADP, working with all the technical expertise that we have and the people that like to question it and like to see it go forward and pushing on innovation. This is very good.
And that probably helps you to develop a little bit more, even more, the strategy.
For sure.
For sure. Also, we are getting out of time, and as we are here driving ecosystems on innovation, could you please, everyone, I'll ask everyone, say something to these people. What should they focus on? What are the main things that you think that they should get their hands on now with AI?
Well, personally, for sure, use it as much as you can. Of course, if you have concerns with privacy or security, take them into account. Make sure that your human critical thinking is always at hand because models are still learning. We are also training our models, of course, all of us. So personally, use it as much as you can within your own boundaries. And as a company, do not be afraid to test, to trial, to have your people learn, to have pilots, to have experiments, to roll out those experiments. Of course, always within the safety boundaries that everyone is comfortable with, but never avoid using it. That would be my advice.
It's a very good advice. It's a very good advice. Rodrigo, do you want to give an advice or release the chicken, as you said?
Yes, three topics. First, what is the problem that you want to solve? Second, is your technology aligned with the values of your community? Okay, in terms of ethical values, in terms of how to embrace people, is privacy friendly, is secure, okay? Because many times it's so much fantastic solution, but it's not privacy friendly, forget it, okay? Or it's not sustainable, forget it, okay? So align this also with the main KPIs today. And third, how your solution can have a human in the loop. And I finished with two amazing stories that I'd found in my journey. One was in a bank where we separate two groups of coders, the coders with more than 40 years from one side and the coders with less than 40 years for the other side, 200 coders. And we realized that first, most of the older ones, they were not relying 100% in the output of the coder assistant. The younger ones were more productive because they were trusting more in the output. What we found, youngers were more better productivity, older were best in risk management. Okay? And why? Older ones, they had this amazing capacity to have experience in both languages, which was the way that code was used to be done in the past, and the way that now coding is being done. So they can make the arbitration between the two. And what we were seeing with the younger ones were that they were not so demanding in the output. They were more critical. Okay? So what we know now is that first, we need to take the older ones to teach the youngers to have critical thinking about the output. Okay? So this is running away from cliches and looking to reality and see where is value. And the other ones, they have more value to increase because they dominate both languages, okay? And we know that in a few years, we will lose this capacity. The second one was in an hospital where they are using AI for diagnosis. But they are just using this in specific cases when they have doubt.
Imagine that you want to drill a concrete wall, and you start drilling the concrete, and when you find a rebar, right, a metal rebar, I'm seeing a few faces, right? You have experience. It takes forever, right? So boring the ground is basically the same thing. When you find something different, then you face problems. And but the difference here is that a delay is measured in weeks and not in hours in this case. So because of that, we have developed 3 technologies. The first one is what we call assisted dynamic boring. It's a technology specifically designed for unstable ground, meaning mud, gravel, sandy soils with water. Those are examples of unstable ground. And we have a second technology called jet boring technology that is specifically designed for drilling the hardest rocks on Earth, but without even touching it. And finally, our ultimate solution, and the most important one, is a single machine that can incorporate the 2 technologies that I just explained, but also adds another 4 conventional technologies, boring technologies for conventional situations. So that flexibility gives you the ability to bore through any ground condition at any diameter, which at the end, it translates into lower project risk and lower execution time, which at the end, of course, means less cost. So with that, I hope you enjoy it, and let's get boring, guys.
Thank you. Next up is Ripath.
Hi, I can smell the coffee already, but before, maybe let me ask you one question. So who of you knows and has any idea, like according to the World Economic Forum, what is the greatest global risk actually? Great idea. It's also very, very high on the overall list, but actually it's extreme weather events, right? So just last year, you all probably saw these devastating images where we had this, flood happening in Spain, where people lost their lives, where a lot of infrastructure was destroyed. And of course, like 1 month ago, we had this big blackout. And this is kind of the new operating reality that we are working in today, right? Extreme weather events are leading to more and more damages, to more disruptions of our infrastructure itself. I'm Julius. I'm the CEO of co-founder of Repath. And at Repath, we are building the software solution to actually proactive build this resilience for our infrastructure itself. So how do we do this actually? We look at each of the assets itself. We even look at each of the component of each asset. And what we do then is we take climate model data, we pair it with a lot of information and other data sets, and then we project information, for example, on flooding, on heat stress, on extreme winds for years and decades into the future. So we know that at what kind of assets you are facing real financial loss potentials. And we can do majorly 3 things. So first of all, we help you to do better investment decisions for, of course, new investment decisions into your infrastructure, but also for your existing infrastructure itself. Second, it's about, safeguarding this operational continuity, so things get not disrupted so often in this new future. And lastly, we have to report, we have to be compliant on this topic. There's a big push from the UE on it, so we enable you to have auditor ready, CSRD, and EU taxonomy reports itself. So if you're ready to future-proof your assets, your operations, then scan the code, reach out to me after, and probably during this coffee break now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Well, if you recall from Vera's speech this morning, she said, we must be bold. So we took a bold decision. We decided to change the agenda. We looked at you, we understood that we were a bit running out of time. We saw that you really wanted a coffee break, so we'll move into coffee break now. And we'll have 15 minutes coffee break to try to catch up with time, and we'll be back at 11:40. So enjoy and take the time. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So I think that it's not new for you that renewables are growing at a fast pace. However, alongside with this, we need to keep an efficient and a reliable operations. And that seems easy, but when it comes to scale, the challenge is different. So it's not about managing just a couple of renewable parks. It's about managing a diverse and also a huge fleet. With that in mind, let me give you some context here. So today, EDP, as Tomas already showed to you, is spread across different countries, which brings some challenges as well. We need to deal with different climate conditions. We need to deal with different grid codes, with different regulations, and also with different supply chains. Something that works in Texas for operations may not work the same way in Brazil or even here in Portugal. So a big challenge. Also, multi-technology. So today, EDP has very different assets. We have wind, we have solar, we have hydro. We now have some hybrid systems. We are adding some storage on the assets. And each one of these assets, they will have different OEM needs, which means that we need to deal with that differences. And even inside each one of the technologies, wind, for instance, you can have different manufacturers, you can have different codes, and so on and so forth. Well, we're growing at a very high pace in multi-technology, in geographies, and probably we are outpacing the qualified labor that we need to deal with that operation. So this means that probably we will be facing a labor shortage, which means delays in operations, which means more downtime, and of course brings additional costs. And last but not least, safety. Safety is a paramount. And as Diana mentioned during the panel that we have here, we want to provide solutions to our workers that not only mitigate the risk exposure, but also provide them tools to handle more efficiently the operations. Well, having all of this in mind, we are always looking for some solutions like yours that can bring and help us to address these challenges. And this is exactly what I want to show to you. So I have here two recent examples, with who we have partnered last year. First one, let me talk about Aeronge. Aeronge have a robotic solution that is able to inspect and repair the blades of a wind turbine. And why is this important? Because this way we are mitigating the time exposure of our workers working at high. And even more than that, we are able to perform the repair in a faster way and eventually with lower costs. We also have here another example, Quantified Energy Labs. We have also piloted with them last year. Here, the challenge is different. So Quantified Energy Labs has a drone-based approach to perform electroluminescence. Electroluminescence is kind of X-ray, let's see, like this for the PV panels. And this way, it allows us to identify failures. And these failures can somehow made underperformance or even to bring premature failure. Electroluminescence is not new. Actually, it is already being used in our commissioning operation of the PV plants. But the new approach here using drone means that we can be faster, and faster, I mean 90 times faster than the way we are using today. So these are just a few examples that we have recently piloted. I'm very happy to talk with you about other potential solutions to tackle these challenges. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Miguel Roldão, and today I will show you some of the details of this battery analytics pilot. So EDP is deploying a lot of storage, and however, we still lack some tools to help us to monitor these assets and to maximize the revenues we can extract with these assets. Why this is happening? Because we have insufficient data from OEMs, and this is affecting the way we can monitor and we can predict and optimize this battery performance. We estimate that this data gap could lead to millions in losses to EDP each year, and some maintenance and scheduled stops that can restrict the profitability of these projects. These poor monitoring results could also lead to severe risks in terms of thermal runaways, in terms of issues to the assets. Also, these less informed systems and this less informed management could also result in inefficient bidding in energy markets. So our goal is to test the solutions, the software solutions of these three startups, Rely, Twice, and Volitica. Rely was actually a participant from the Free Electrons program, a very similar program than this one, but with 7 different utilities, where 1,000 participants compete, and Rely was actually distinguished last year with the startup of the year. It's still a little bit early stage. Twice and Volitica are a little bit more advanced, and they are already managing and analyzing a couple of gigawatt hours throughout the world. This pilot will, the use case will be in North America, in California, in Scarlet One Park, which is a hybrid park with solar PV and a BESS system, and it's operational since the Q3 2024, so Q3 of last year. We have 160 megawatt hour capacity installed with 40 megawatts of peak power, and the goals of the pilot is to increase the battery health information, improve warranty tracking, support informed market bidding in order to optimize the revenues of this project, extend battery lifetime, and avoid downtime and safety issues. By doing that, we can really determine if monitoring these technical data from the batteries is critical to maximize the profitability of the systems and be able to achieve a cleaner and cheaper energy mix for EDP and for the grid. And that's it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Miguel and Filipa, for presenting us some of the cases, stories that we're doing under the renewables and storage domains. They'll be around if you want to ask some more questions or other examples that they are working on. And now it's time to move to one of our keynote speakers. And we talk about energy transition, what's going on with the world, but sometimes it's important to look at hard data. And that's part of what we want to achieve with our next speaker. So it's my pleasure to invite Luis Rebelo from Cleantech for Iberia, Policy Manager, to give us a keynote on this topic. So let's welcome Luis.
Thank you. Thank you to EDP for inviting Cleantech for Iberia to be here with you today. So I'll speak about the trends that we are seeing in Iberia and a bit also in Europe and all over the world. But basically, what is the purpose for Cleantech for Iberia, also for you to know us a little bit better? Our main purpose is to consolidate Iberia as the go-to zone in Europe for green industrialization. We have wonderful capabilities, we have excellent conditions for the development of clean tech projects, and we want to work together with innovators, with investors, with policymakers to make this area, Portugal and Spain, this go-to area. We want to have sustainable, competitive companies in Portugal and Spain. We want to take advantage of the clean industrial deal and also to take advantage of everything that is happening in terms of geopolitics. We count on investors, like I said, innovators. H Capital is here with us also today. We are supported by philanthropic funds like Breakthrough Energy, which was founded by Bill Gates in 2015 after the Paris Agreement, and this is mainly our purpose. This is a bit our coalition, like I said, with our partners. You will know many of them, I'm pretty sure. But going to the European context, what do we feel? Our main concern is the number that you see there. In 2000, Europe had 41 of the most valuable companies in the world. Today, it has only 15. This stands out also in the Draghi report that it was presented to the European Commission a few months ago. So this is our context. A confluence of crises. We have the climate emergency. We have energy security problems, and we have the problem with economic competitiveness. And we believe that clean tech is the answer to many of these problems. So we want to promote the security in terms of energy supply. We want to transform our innovation capacity. We want to reduce CO2 emissions and, of course, also attract capital and investment for Europe, and particularly to Iberia. Iberia has several, let's say, sister organizations. We are part of Cleantech for Europe, and then we have Cleantech for Iberia, Cleantech for France, Cleantech for UK, and Cleantech for Italy as well. And this is, for us, a unique chance for Portugal and Spain. Because of the clean industrial deal and all the investment, the public investment that will be happening in the next few years, also because of the amount and the availability of renewable energy sources in Portugal and Spain, the amount of critical raw materials, 23% of all critical raw materials projects that were funded by the European Commission are here in Iberia, in Portugal and Spain. And of course, a range of other factors, such as locations, such as this political consensus about the need of the energy and climate transition, and so on. But when we talk about investments, what's happening in Iberia and what's happening in Europe? What we see is that while these investments are growing in Iberia, there's a drop in Europe. So right now in 2024, Iberia increased 37% compared to 2023, and we reached 426 million. It's not our best year ever, that was 2022, but we believe that this also reflects that investors are confident in the future and also in these technologies. In terms of sectors, we see that transports and logistics, they were on the lead in 2024. We also have energy with around 20% of the investments. And of course also agriculture and food, which is an important clean tech sector in Iberia. Early stage investments are leading the race. We have some challenges in terms of scaling up these companies. That's the most clear bottleneck that we find. We need more funding, and most of all, we need more dedicated instruments in terms of clean tech funding. So we must close this investment gap that we have, not only with other regions of the world, but also with France or Spain. For instance, Iberia together is investing 5 times less than France, 6 times less than Germany. This in terms of amount. In terms of number of deals, we are a bit better, but there's still a lot to do in that as well. These are some of the top investments in terms of seeds and Series A. Cleantech for Iberia also is tracking most of these deals. And also, we have some numbers on late-stage investments, which, in fact, this is the main bottleneck, attracting more investment, more funds to these later-stage deals. We know that in Europe, we have resources. In Iberia, we don't have that many resources. So we need to somehow de-risk this kind of investment, but we will talk about that later. Main trends that we see in the last year and that we see going forward in 2025. 3 concepts: decarbonization by design. So energy security means not only national security, but also autonomy. We believe that, like in China, electrification push is not driven by decarbonization. It's driven by global competitiveness. This is one clear trend that we see. Reindustrialization through technology, second one, and third one, from green premium to green advantage. We are not talking anymore about green as a principle, let's say, or about as a value. It's becoming more and more a competitive edge. In terms of growth, what sectors are growing in 2025? What we see is AI, energy security, grids, Earth observation. AI is becoming definitely a major driver of clean tech investment, as you have already seen this morning here as well. Power supply for data centers, cheap materials and manufacturing, and so on and so on. What we expect to also to grow in 2025, long duration energy storage. Also on this, Iberia has excellent conditions. Just 2 days ago, Cleantech for Iberia, in a partnership with Breakthrough Energy and EY as well, presented a study, which is basically a roadmap for energy storage in Portugal. I also invite you to look at this report. Grid asset management and smart microgrids, and of course also decentralized energy systems. What's preparing for significant growth? Like I said, thermal storage, industrial electrification. First-of-a-kind projects are maturing on these topics, particularly here in Iberia. We also count on our coalition with Renewable Energy, which I think is also in a project with EDP. What do we need to improve? We need to improve on the scale-up gap and on the growth equity gap. Here, I return to the investment criteria and what's lacking to support these first-of-a-kind projects. We need to de-risk these kind of investments. We need public guarantees or counter guarantees. It's very frequent also that, for instance, banks are not able to support these projects because there's not enough expertise on banks to assess these kind of reports and these kind of investments. So we need somehow to bridge everything that is happening here in terms of policy making with investors and innovators. This is also our biggest challenge. And we also need to attract more and more private capital to this. Of course, taxes have also a relevant role on this. Project finance, green bonds, we are looking at all of this, and we are also working on the clean tech investment plan. So key actions to strengthen clean tech investments, new funding mechanisms, dedicated mechanisms. We want to work also as well with development banks like national development banks. With EIB, we want to mobilize public guarantees and also encourage investors to fund this kind of late-stage clean tech projects. For instance, Breakthrough Energy Ventures has the Catalyst program, which is very much directed to these first-of-a-kind projects that need many times dozens or hundreds of investments for their projects. And finally, like I said, develop a strategic investment plan for Iberia, merging all these challenges from public and private sides. And that's it. I believe there's some space for Q&A now. Thank you. So,
any questions? Maybe the coffee break didn't energize people enough, but we'll get to them afterwards. So, wow.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Luis, for presenting some of the trends that Cleantech for Iberia is seeing. Interesting that you have highlighted Rondo Energy and alumni from our programs in this concept of the first-of-a-kind projects, and it's also a motto for the way that we have been working on. Which is a good segue for the next slot, which is to present you the remaining startups that have been part of the Energy Starter Program. We'll start with 3 of them that are part of the existing cohort on Future Grids, and then we'll have 2 alumni startups that are also being featured on some of the success cases that we are presenting. So with no further ado, let's start with the first startup, which is SenseWaves. The stage is yours.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having us. I'm Fivos Maniatakos. I'm CEO of SenseWaves, and we solve the problem of visibility and situational awareness in the electricity grid. So it's a very important problem to solve for the resiliency of the grid, not only now, but also in the future. But despite common belief, actually the part of the grid that suffers the most is the distribution grid, so the part that is lower to customers. It is by far the less visible, and at the same time, the problem is that it's the part of the grid that where energy transition happens. It's everything connects there, from solar to wind, even data centers. So what we need to do is to digitalize this grid, increase the visibility in the distribution grid in order to be able to control it better. And of course, the path is not easy. There are major challenges. So the first one is connectivity. So the operators know where the assets are. What they don't know is how exactly they are connected together, how they interact. The second problem is the metering limitations. So metering costs a lot, and the distribution grid has only part of these assets monitored. The rest of it cannot be monitored, so we need to find a solution. And the third one has to do with the data. So data, as they come from the grid, they are raw and useless in this form. They need to be processed. We have created Adaptex Grid. It's an holistic solution for the visibility and situational awareness of the grid. We use the Power AI in order to address all these challenges I mentioned one by one. First, we create an accurate connected grid model. So we connect the dots in the grid, and we have a representation that is close to reality. The second is we use the smart meter data, the ones you have in houses, for a good cause. So we use it in order to estimate the load at other places of the grid where we don't have meters. And the third, we use AI in order to transform the raw data of the grid into meaningful information for the engineers. So in these three ways, we set lights to the black spots of the grid and help the engineers pass from assumption-based to ground truth-based decisions in their workflow. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Tumetis.
Thank you very much for having me. My name's Kieran Bowen from Tumetis. So the best way of showing what we do is just to show you an example. So this is a typical prediction coming out of Cascadence, our software application. And this is a prediction for a cable connector failure on an electrical distribution grid. Now, I've got a timeline here. On day one, our application detected a precursor to that cable connector failure. As soon as that happened, it automatically generated a search area. Now, in my map here, you've got the substation in the top right, and there's area in red, which is our automatically generated search area. The other automatic thing that happens is that the utility gets notified. Now, in this case, a patrol was sent out, and on day 14, that patrol went out, and they scanned every single cable connector in that search area with an infrared gun. This connector had dangerously high temperatures, so they chose to swap it then and there. So they switched the circuit so that scheduled maintenance affected 10 customers for about 2 hours. So we've got a metric that measures impact, and that's at about 1,000. Had that failed organically, had that been a forced outage, the impact would have been many, many times bigger. And the kind of final part of that story there is that after that maintenance was done, no more precursors, no more signatures. So our application is called Cascadence. It's a hardware agnostic software application. And the name of the game here really is to improve grid reliability, reduce operational costs, and improve customer experience. Now, I've just presented the fault prediction and location use case, but when you bring all this data together, you can apply it to mitigating wildfires and validation of grid models and protection systems operation. Finally, I'd just like to say that the success here is there's an awful lot of data science under the hood, But that needs to be informed by and married with the subject matter expertise that we work with our clients. I think I'm out of time, but thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, next up is VoltQuant.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Nikita, and I'm a founder and CEO of VoltQuant. Before I begin, I want to ask you all, what switchgear was used on the substation that you built in 1996? Does anyone know? Probably not. Thousands of substations, right? The reason is most projects drown in documents. Projects, assets, have lots of multimodal data. This data is organized by humans and is then put into your SharePoints, your OneDrives, your Oracles, and is forgotten about. And that's a problem. That's a problem for those who have to pick up on this data way later down the line. If there's a power outage or if something bad happens and you need to get to your information quickly, it can become a real pickle. We think AI can solve this problem. Our AI model can organize this data and make it usable and callable by other software and humans way later down the line. In effect, you no longer have to worry about having your teammates, your colleagues, stay on a particular project or asset, because now this intelligence is kind of embedded within the system. Please meet your AI colleague. Your AI colleague can answer project and asset document-related questions, and can also generate engineering reports. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you. And now moving to our alumni, let's welcome Alexis.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mark Hibbert from Star Smart Grid. Our business is renewable energy integration and grid optimization. Our signature product is the Alexis. It's an advanced 4-quadrant inverter and distribution STATCOM. It can dynamically manage voltage levels, correct voltage unbalance, and mitigate harmonics. Our 30 kVA rack-mounted unit has been fully certified and has been on the market for a few years. Our customers use it to optimize their grid connections and increase their export limits. It's also been used as a battery inverter with deployments from 100 kilowatts up to 3 megawatts in Australia. And it's also been used in the network to manage the system voltages, relieving voltage stress caused by unbalanced loads, fluctuating loads, and embedded generation. Last year, we completed our first utility-size field trial of a passively cooled pole-mounted STATCOM in Australia. And last month, here in Portugal, we finished a similar trial with EDP Innovation. You might have heard of the term horse whisperer. It refers to people who can quietly calm and control magnificent but unpredictable animals. We like to think of the Alexis as the grid whisperer. This chart shows 2 consecutive days from the field trial here in Portugal. Switched on early in day 2, the Alexis quietly calms the wild voltages, creating order from chaos. As the energy transition adds more and more loads and more generation to an already heavily utilised grid, voltage stress is going to be a major issue for the networks in the future. The Alexis is a major enabler of the energy transition, and we'd like to invite a second investor to share in our growth. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, let's hear from Synaptech.
Hello, everybody. My name is Saul, and I'm the VP of Sales at Synaptech. Our cohort was in 2023, and I'm here to talk to you about DES, Distributed Electrical Sensing. Now, this is a very new technology to a lot of people in the world, but we've been around for 10 years. And essentially, it's distributed sensors. We found a way to measure things like current and voltage without any power supplies and without any data networks. And we've reduced the size of the sensor to this gold box. That means you can reach outside the fence of a substation, you can go a long way into maybe a remote area or underground, undersea, somewhere where your assets are inaccessible and you can't see them, and we can instrument and monitor them. That gives you more visibility and control and upgraded protection capabilities and condition monitoring capabilities in a very distributed grid where you have a lot of challenges and renewable integrations and growth and complexity. So you can see from the picture here, we've got a mix of applications for this technology where you can put sensors far away and look at upgrading the protection for complex circuits, speeding up renewable grid connections, or probably the biggest one we've just done after we did this program was on Dogger Bank, the world's largest offshore wind farm. We're monitoring every single cable for 30 years to provide an early warning of failures so that there's reducing the risk of failure, which is the biggest cost in offshore wind. In this particular case, and what we've already started working on with Francisco and the team here, is about upgrading the protection scheme. Those of you who are electrical engineers, you will know that the world is based on distance protection. So where is the fault? It's somewhere here. I can trip and I can locate it. If your circuit has complexity, like a new grid connection, multiple tap-off points, or overhead and underground lines mixed together, you no longer know where the fault is. And in protection timescales, you need to see the fault, respond to the fault, and then try and restore power as fast as possible. We enable that with differential protection without the need for data networks, which are hundreds of thousands of euros, and buildings, which are millions and years of planning and permission. So we don't need infrastructure to measure something critical and respond in protection timescales to a problem. So this circuit shows you this complex system where we're interrogating from one substation, reaching out, monitoring the whole circuit, and giving better, more informed and targeted response.
Price of the electricity that is being produced, so it can act as a complement to traditional solar installations or even as a competitive solution. And finally, we are testing a solution from the company called Sun Oyster, which is proposing a very energy-dense, lightweight panel. Energy density is very important because usually lightweight panels are much more costly. And so if this solution really works as we expect, it will open the door for those kinds of roofs that have weight limitations on them. So these are the 4 pilots that I bring you. We obviously hope that these will bring positive impact to EDP, but also, most importantly, for the clients, because it will help them in their energy transition and it will bring them even more benefits. So that was all. Thank you very much. I'll pass on the word to Pedro now.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for being here. My name is Pedro Ferreira. I work in Innovation in Networks in EDP Innovation. And I'm here to talk a little bit about the problem. And networks, they were the odd of until a couple of years ago. And nobody really took great attention to them. But from the last years, 2 years until now, they have been on the spotlight, and rightfully so, because without the networks, we won't have the energy transition, at least as we designed it, okay? So they are on the spot, but with that, they have also huge challenges that they need to tackle. And those challenges come from not only from the magnitude of the work they need to do. We need to double our networks in the next 40 years, and we took 100 years to do this. So not only that, but also we are in a scenario of decreasing demographics, competition for labor, for resources. So this is not an easy task. And in the middle of this huge problem, sorry, it's not okay. In the middle of this problem, what should we do? And luckily, we have what we call the hunting zones that are, I would say, the flavors of the year, the priorities that we set up that we should solve. And I'm here to talk about one problem, a solution for one problem in one of these hunting zones, which is optimized grid capacity. So what is the problem? Voltage fluctuations. We had them in the past. They were something that was acquired, and it was pretty standard. But we are now aggravating the problem. Why? We decentralized generation, and we put generation spread all over the network, and typically in places where we don't have consumption at the same time, so voltage rises. We are increasing our electrification. So why, where, and how? As it was mentioned, in heating and cooling, in our houses, in our cars. So when we arrive home, we want to use all those things. A lot of consumption, voltage drops. And not only that, we need to be subjected to our wishes of St. Peter that chooses to put some clouds, take some clouds. So all of these is a huge variability that we need to tackle. And the traditional solution for this is reinvest, is to upgrade the transformers, is to upgrade the power lines. But this takes time. It costs a lot. And not only that, we have a huge competition for resources now. So it's a way, a good way, but it perhaps is not the only solution that we need to leverage on today. And thankfully, these startup programs help us to scout startups all over the world. And we found Alexis a couple of years ago. They came from Australia. Australia has this headache far longer than we do, and we wanted to test their solution. So a new technology, a problem that wasn't quite well acute at the time, but nevertheless, we started the pilot. We need to select the site. We need to ship and import equipment from Australia. We need to install it. Alexis gave us a full support on this. It was really relevant. Our network teams also took the chance and moved forward. And Mark spoiled my graph, but this is okay. All and behold, the solution worked. And took one network that has huge voltage variability and put it well conformed and in place. And one funny story, one of our colleagues got married and went to vacation. And when he arrived yesterday, he looked at the score of the networks that he has. And he said, oh, well, I have a very good surprise when I arrived. This line was on the top worst lines in terms of voltage fluctuation, and it's now in one of the best. So good results, congratulations, Alexis. And we are now talking to roll out or pre-roll out all these solutions and have them as an option. And I wanted to stress out one thing before we go. In this scenario of high uncertainty, of speed, it's very important for us to have mechanisms that we do now to anticipate the problems and also to be able to tackle them before they are a huge headache, so that when the problem arrives, and now we have a lot of much more power lines with this type of problems than we had 2 years ago, we have a solution ready and an option created. Thank you very much. Good day.
Thank you, Pedro. Before we move to the next panel, if I can take 3 things from these two presentations, is first, Elisa, I need to learn from you because my grandma is not offering me solar panels, so something might be wrong. The second one is from what you could see, that the programs are truly global. So we have startups from Australia, from different parts of Europe, from South and North America, so they're really global. And the final one is that the focus is not on the pilot itself, and that's a risk for the startups sometimes to get death by pilot, but it's really how can we turn these pilots into actual rollouts that are meaningful and that represent something not just for EDP, but also for the startups that are working with us. With this, let's move to the final panel of the day around geopolitics of innovation. And with that, and probably better than I would ever explain the objectives and the goal of this panel, I would like to invite our moderator, Nuno, from Diário de Notícias, that will moderate this panel and invite the speakers. Nuno, thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Nuno. I'm a Deputy Editor-in-Chief of Diário de Notícias, which is one of the oldest newspapers still in production in Europe. It's 160 years. We have a lot of history, and we have a lot of stories as well, but they're not for today. But I would like to invite to the stage from the get-go António Coutinho, which is CEO of ADP Innovation. Aside from being the man who most people who are pitching are trying to convince of their good ideas, aside from that, is a specialist, an expert on geopolitics and regarding energy, in energy networks in particular. I would like to call as well António Nogueira Leite. I'm sorry, I'm just so sorry. António Nogueira Leite is a professor, is an expert in international relations and geopolitics, and also is the chairman from one of the major insurance companies in Portugal, which is a Spanish company called MAF, but he has a branch called MAF Portugal. And last but not least, Pedro Gingeira, Secretary-General of Business Roundtable Portugal, which is is a get-together of companies that try to solve their own problems and innovation-wise and competition as well. And it's a think tank that puts out many good ideas regarding companies. So we have a lot of expertise around companies, around geopolitics and energy sectors. This is a very good time for us to be talking about this because the uncertainty that a Russian invasion on Ukraine in 2022, which was supposed to take a couple of weeks, but it's been 3 years now or more. The recent blackout that we had in Portugal and Spain got us to think about this. And the difficulty that most startups are getting in Europe are feeling to get venture capital, to get startup money. It got us thinking all together that we have some problems, and those problems I could describe as dependency. We are dependent in Europe on a lot of issues. We are dependent on security and defense. We are dependent sometimes on energy. We are dependent as well on venture capital, on global funding for our startups and for our innovation. So we are lagging behind. And that problem comes from uncertainty, and what these kinds of panels do is put us all together to think on solutions, on getting to share the views that these experts have on the uncertainty problems and how they can be fixed. And without further ado, I will just ask just that. António Coutinho, we have a big problem of dependency in Europe in certain regards. How would you describe the way that we could get out of this despondency?
I should say with innovation, but I'll get to there. But let's start first to understand the role of energy. The energy is the lifeblood of the civilization as we know it. So when we are saying that we are looking for the energy transition in the next 25 years, it means that we are changing everything. We are changing the way civilization works. And so the result of that is that the ones that are selling and basing their economy on energy are going to see their economies change quite significantly. And there are others that are too dependent on this, that they are also trying to stay out as much as possible. So when we are saying that we are not going to use oil and gas, or we are going to reduce dramatically 80, 90% of oil and gas consumption in the world in the next 25 years, Russia, that depends on oil and gas for its economy, is not going to be very pleased. And so all the relevance on the world economy, on the world order of Russia is going to diminish just because of the reduction on oil. So if you want to do something, let's do it now, because in the future, for demographics, for oil dependence, you are going to have less power. So on the same side, we see China. China is increasing, as its economy is increasing, it's increasing its dependence on oil. And US just reduced completely their dependence on oil because of the shale oil that they discovered to manage and to extract in 2011. So they don't care about the Middle East as they cared just 15 years ago. And that's the reality. And this shapes completely the way these blocks work together. Now, Europe is on the energy dependence side. And so if we are dependent on energy, you know, if prices go up, we will have less money to spend on future growth. That's a problem. So the only way we can get out of this is through the energy transition at the end of the day, because we are going to produce our own energy. So now I'm coming to innovation. And the value of innovation within the energy transition is not so much on the technology side, because a lot of the technologies already exist. They are already on the money, is to make these possible and to speed and scale this type of transition. Now, it's not just a question of the sustainability of the world. Actually, Europe doesn't count that much. It's the sustainability of our economy, the sustainability of our democracies, the sustainability of the way we live.
Thank you. Professor Antonio, do you see that this path is a rough path in Europe, since we have 27 minds in a council that does not seem to function very well and in a timely manner? I mean, that's what I mean. Do you see that this is a rough patch for us to come to the solution, European solution for the energy and other affairs?
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me. Of course, we are not a federal country. We're not a federation of states. So we have 27 decision makers. Not all of them aligned on the major issues, and I'm not just talking about urban and agri. I'm talking about, you know, natural divisions that happen whenever we have issues. By the way, I was in one of the Portuguese presidencies as Secretary of the Treasury, so, you know, was much easier because we were only 15, but it was still pretty hard. So that's one point. But prior to that, I think that we need to settle a few things. As a good example of how difficult it is to rule with 27 countries, just remember that European, what we call in Portugal the PRR, or European Recovery Mechanism, which investment plan, which is undergoing, was designed and announced as an answer to helping the economies recovering from COVID, okay? That gives you an idea of the lags between the time that policies are thought of, the time they are discussed, the time they are agreed upon, and the time they are implemented. Nobody needs those investments now to get out of the constraints of a pandemic. We are way beyond that situation. So that's just a good example how slow things work. The other point is we are in a situation where we clearly know that in terms of technological advancement, we are, you know, we have to be frank, we are lagging US and China in most areas. Not all of areas, but most areas, and the very relevant areas we are clearly lagging behind. And we had not an awakening, but we had a, you know, an important report that came out months ago, last year, at the end of last year, the Draghi report, saying that we have to do a lot of things. Of course, Draghi is not the Emperor of Europe, so that has to be discussed at the council level to be, decided something about it. Last week, the Commission produced a roadmap of how we are going to tackle the issues to get a comprehensive package out of the Draghi report. Okay? So 8 months have passed, and we are agreeing, one entity is proposing a roadmap for discussing what we're going to do in terms of deciding what we are going to take out of the proposals.
It's a plan about the plan.
So it's not only the fact that we are 27, it's the fact that we let a huge, humongous bureaucracy grow in Brussels, which lives on their own, because those people face no risks. They know that European taxpayers will always pay their salaries, will always pay their offices, will always pay their immense trips, and will also always pay also the cost of their inefficiency. And they are very much on their own, because usually when the commissioners come, they are not experts on the subject. Usually they are retired politicians, or they are people that want to take something out in terms of PR out of being a commissioner. So we have a problem with the Commission. We already had it 25 years ago when I was a member of the Council, but it has grown as an unchecked bureaucracy always grows, because they're feeding on themselves and they're feeding on the incompetence of the politicians above them. So just to say, this is a problem, and this has to be tackled. Besides the 27, I think we have to think about something that is very unpopular, including in Portugal, but I think to be more efficient, we'll never be as efficient as one country, even if it's a federal entity, like Australia or the US or Canada, but we can be more efficient in some decisions, and I think we have to revise Lisbon Treaty in terms of deciding what can be decided on a majority and not be always lagging our feet, because we have to either have France on the project to engage in trade relations with South America because of the French cows that will disappear because of Argentina, or Hungary in a lot of other situations. So we need to change the rules, and of course we need to shed the bureaucracy. I'm not talking about Argentinian methods, but we have to meticulously look at all the processes, the way things are being decided, and streamline the huge decision to implementation time that we have in the EU.
Pedro, sometimes companies take matters on their own hands and try to innovate on themselves, by themselves. How can companies counteract on that bureaucracy from Brussels or from the European Union? How can they counteract that in a way that they will be relevant in today's world? And what are the challenges they are faced on that course?
So first of all, thank you very much to EDP, one of our founding members, for this opportunity to be here sharing our views with you. More than being a think tank, we like to think of ourselves as an action tank. We don't just like to put out ideas, we like to try to implement on them as well. Just going back to what Antonio said about the Commission's plan, this is really one of the key issues that we're facing, is that Europe is still a young baby that hasn't developed. It's 8 months since the Draghi report, but it's 12 months, it's 1 year since the Letter report that preceded it. So we've been into this for over a year. We've all seen the pace of change in the US over the past 6 months, or 5 months, to be honest. In Europe, the Commission has now shown us a plan to make a plan. And it's actually a technocrat's dream. It is a plan with 9 priorities, the first of which has 10 priorities. no sense of urgency whatsoever. Just to give you an example, on one of such said priorities, the first action that they list is to call out a first meeting of the high-level Sherpas to discuss. And this is supposed to happen by the end of 2025. Okay? The third issue with this plan is we're doubling down on SMEs, which is great, because of course we need startups, we need SMEs, but we can't compete on a global scale with SMEs. We need to have European champions, and this, no word about it. The fourth issue with this plan from the Commission is that it's totally focused on making Europe a place of consumers and services. Not a single word for industries, not one word for industries. Europe is better known for its export of goods, not so much for its export of services. The US is better known for its export of services, of digital services. And so it strikes as very odd that the Commission doesn't think Europe has a future for its industrial base. So what we need in Europe, and I was just watching some of the presentations before, and it really struck me on the Clean Tech Iberia presentation, more than anything else, the reason why startups leave Europe is because we don't have a single market. We have 27 different regulations, 27 different regulators, and if we want to scale up, we need big markets. We need to be a big market. It exists for some of the end consumers, but it doesn't exist for the scale-ups. So that's really what we're lacking.
Antonio, you already touched on this, but I would like some more explanation on what are the geopolitical forces that are shaping innovation, specifically in energy? What are the main drivers that are on course today?
So, as I said, China sees its dependence, its oil dependence, as a geostrategic weakness. And so it's not just because of sustainability, it's a question of I need to make sure that I reduce my oil consumption to a level that I can live with that if I have some kind of a constraint on receiving oil. So they are putting a lot of effort on, so they are leading the old technologies on energy transition, from the critical raw materials to solar panels to EVs and so on. But the main reason is because they are the biggest consumer of these type of technologies. I mean, last year the world has spent 2.1 trillion in clean tech, and China was responsible for 40% of that consumption. So it's more than Europe and US together. And so they are they are producing for themselves, and then they just sell their overall capacity, their unused capacity to the rest of the world. And they had a lot of raw materials, but they didn't have everything. What did they do? They got ports, and the first thing that they do when they arrive to a port is that 70% of the export of that port goes to China. Now, that's the reason why China is the major trading partner in the world. And so that was a change significant. So they are putting a lot of efforts on doing the energy transition. They are leading this, and they are putting a lot of efforts on R&D. Just to give an idea, so Northvolt was, the European effort to lead the battery, the battery technology that we all know is going to be key for the future of the energy transition. Northvolt had 4,000 employees. Now, CATL, the biggest Chinese battery manufacturer, how many people do they have on R&D? 20,000. I mean, think about this. They have 5 more people just on R&D that Northvolt has for everything. It's very hard to compete with this. It's just numbers. But it's not just the numbers, it's that they are really investing on R&D, they are really investing on scientific papers, on patents. They have two times more patents than the US. So they don't have the VC ecosystem that US have. So US is able to really deploy fast a lot of capital, 50 million on a round capital raise. They risk a lot, and they have a big market where the work laws are the same, the language is the same, tax is the same, and so on. So it's very easy to scale in US. You have the capital, you have the way to scale like fire, but they are producing less and less R&D, less and less patents, and with this effort that they are doing on expelling foreigners and, you know, this may reverse.
But what you're saying is that it's fairly visible what is the end game strategy for China regarding the other strategic regions. So it should compel us, or at least compel the other regions, to counteract it in some way. And
but the question,
and that's an open question for all the panel. I mean, please feel free to
pass. I think, you know, Europe woke up suddenly and discovered that we are excessively dependent on cheap energy from Russia. Then we understood that we are very dependent, excessively dependent on China in terms of industry. And then we discovered that we are in excess dependent on defense of US. If this doesn't wake up us really hard and try to overcome these problems, then I don't know what can help us do something faster.
Antonio, just a quick one on that. Europe woke up and found that, but they haven't had coffee yet. You know? So they're still yawning and going about like, oh shit, I had a bad dream. Sorry, forgive my French. So that's really the issue. We need big doses of caffeine. We need to jolt people, because even with Trump and with China, it's not enough. It hasn't been enough.
Well, you know, some of those issues didn't arise in February of 2022 with the Russian invasion of Ukraine. They've been laying around for quite some time. I've been trying to make people aware of those issues in Portugal, and the only thing I've made so far were enemies. Because a lot of the European elite is comfortable with the situation. And politicians give us some of their own gibberish. Like, for example, a known socialist member of parliament wrote to me on social media yesterday, yes, but we can set ourselves as an example in human rights. Well, of course, but you know, that's not for sale. You know, you may set up an example, but not everybody has our own state of mind and our own set of values. We know that we cannot impose our Western set of values in countries which are not as powerful, but they've always won their battles, like Afghanistan or Iraq. I mean, that's out. There was neocons 20 years ago. It didn't work. Okay, so the first problem is to create awareness on those that really can answer to these questions and start putting a sense of urgency on everything. You know, and so here, I think that, you know, we have a few drawbacks. I have, you know, if you have asked me this question 25 years ago, I would say that I would like Europe, actually, to remember, when Guterres was the Prime Minister of Portugal, he was president of the European presidency here in Lisbon in 2000, and the goal of the 15-member countries announced by everybody at the time was make Europe the most competitive region in the world in 10 years, okay? We are far past that period. But sometimes it's good to remember that we are lowering our standards in terms of our ambition.
We had a global financial
And
crisis
so,
in between there.
Let me just be very quick. For me, I would be happy if you were a third block, not too far away from the other two, okay? Because we have a lot of problems we haven't really addressed. We have population problems. We have all sorts of. We have a social state which is good, but which has been in the need for reform for quite some time, and we have been basically trying not to address the issue in many of the countries, I would say in practically all the countries. So we have a lot of things of our own, but we need, for example, to stop letting our best ideas jumping onto other locations, being financed there, and hitting the market in other locations. Because we need to create something that we all agreed, when I say we, is the 12 people at the time that signed the agreement to create a single market on January 1st of 1992. Then everybody that entered the union had to commit to that. That's why we went from being a community to a union. And the single market was the first thing. And we clearly do not have a single market. More than that, we have, if you look at Portugal and Spain, for example, we have regulators that are exacerbating their own view of how things are. And because of the politicians that we have been electing in our countries, a lot of those people are against the market. And so the way to do, to go for what they aim is to make life as hard as possible. We have still succeeded, but at the cost. So this is one point, is to really create a single market. The other thing, which is very important, we need a single capital market, and we need a single banking market. We have been fighting for that for a very long time, but we need politicians that are willing to twist the arm of German bankers, for example, in terms of having a single market for banking. That doesn't solve everything, because we'll never have the huge amount. We channel our savings to deposits, and deposits are converted to credit. Banks should not and will not, nowadays they will not, transfer that into equity, okay? But the Americans and the Canadians and the Australians and many others have pension funds. And some Europeans have relevant pension funds. We have too, but they are a tiny part of where savings go. And those are a main source of money for venture capital, for example, because they need to get some sort of yield that will not be granted only by very conservative investments. So they allocate part of their money to foster the results of innovation. We will not have that in Europe, but we have mechanisms to do so. For example, we can leverage some of the funds we have and attract some of the others and using some public money to that, but we cannot do it to a very large extent, because look at Portugal. Every single private equity is largely dependent upon LPs, which are state-owned. We don't want that in Europe. If you look at all the LPs, we have all these finance guys, very smart, but where did they get the money from? EIB and the Portuguese Banco de Fomento. I mean, that's not capital raising. It can be some other thing. And therefore, the ability they have to invest in to really assess risk depends upon the dialogue they need to keep with their LPs. So we need to finalize the single market, which is something that was announced when I was a university student, okay? And I'm no longer a baby. We need the single market in effect, which is something that everybody agreed upon and started when I was starting my professional career. So, it's time to finalize what we have been promising to people, because it will not solve the problems, but will wipe away some of the constraints that we still have, and we'll have a market to test our ideas, and probably will attract the money.
I should say this and take it with a grain of salt. last Monday we had our money conference from Diário de Notícias. There was a representative, someone that was at a meeting in European Banking Association, the EBA, and the buzzword over there was that we need a big, strong European bank. We should strive for that, just like JP Morgan in the United States. And it's only been a short time since JP Morgan has grown so much, but that was the buzzword in the European Business, European Bank Association. I said that we should take it with a grain of salt because sometimes it's a call of action, then starts a plan, then starts another plan, and so on, and it will never take fruition. But
let me just go back to the title of this conversation. Geopolitics of innovation. Geopolitics is all about power, okay? The strongest mandates, the other ones follow. Power is all about scale, because the biggest you are, the strongest you are. And it works like that in the industry, it works like that in defense, it works like that in innovation. So that's what we've been seeing in China, the way they've been innovating. It's what we see a bit in the US. It's not what we see in Europe because we don't have the single market that Antonio was referring to. We have 27 different bubbles that are trying to innovate by themselves. Of course, they share resources, etc., but we don't have a shared budget. And then, again, going back to the Draghi report, it shows that very, very well. In the US, 85% of all resources are mandated federally, so by the state. In Europe, that's 10%. And the rest are all countrywide. So even if we go to Germany, which is our biggest market, it's around 4% of world's GDP. Good luck trying to discuss with China, which is around 17, 18%, or with the US. So even Germany, our biggest country, has a lot to win if we can create this internal market. And it has to come from us. We can't allow the politicians that keep not wanting to let go of some of their decision-making, because otherwise we get stuck in this tiny little thing.
That's one really relevant point is the things that are being done in Brussels. It's a direct consequence of the people who are electing the officials who are electing the governments. So we can say fairly accurately that Europeans do not want to spend money on defense. We can say that they do not want to spend money on supplying capital for the companies for innovation. I'm fairly confident that they do not want that. They want the path that's been going up until today, which is transfers to social programs and so on. Don't you feel that, I mean, it's not possible to do that without the people who are voting for them? That's one of the main concerns, because we cannot do it against all the people.
No, but that's been changing all throughout Europe. Don't just look at the election. We just had election results, but Poland has had election results. Hungary has had election results. Look at France, look at Italy, look at Germany. All of the European countries have been changing. So I don't think that you can say that the people are happy with the results. They might not know what they need to do, but they're really not happy with the results. They need some change, and they're ready to get some change.
My question is they are not happy with the way that things are being done on that direction, or they are not happy with the direction itself. That's one of the problems that maybe we will have to address commonly in European Union. It's a common goal, a common strategy. Don't you believe that?
Let's go back to the Commission's paper from last week. It clearly states the mission of the single market as being one that brings cheaper prices and wider options or choice for the consumers. It doesn't say anything about the competitive Europe that we wanted in the 2000s. It doesn't say nothing about being strong or being a world player. It doesn't say anything about being a leader.
Okay.
So that lack of ambition for Europe is something that we need to address.
I'm entering in Antonio's field, but you know, the only way we can sustain our social expense, you know, the way we live in Europe, is increasing our productivity, because we cannot increase more people because our demographics are not there. We cannot increase. We don't want to increase the number of hours that we work on a weekly basis, and we don't want to work until 75. So the only way we can solve this equation is through increasing productivity like hell. And the only way you increase productivity is with capital and with ideas and with innovation. So we need to be serious about innovations, because it's the only thing that, you know, through, of course, tackling the question of the markets and so on and so forth, but in the end, these are conditions for innovation then to scale. They are the necessary condition, but they are not the sufficient condition. So we need to do both, because if we don't solve this problem, if the world emerges between the question of the strength of blocks, then there is this saying that the strong do what they want and the weak suffer what they must, right? And so it's a question that, do we want to be on the weak side? Then, you know, our human rights, our social spending and so on will be put into question seriously. And just to finalize on bringing this to energy, you know, just on the prices of oil and the prices of gas in Europe, we spent 1,200 billion since 2022 to 2024 in 3 years, okay? 1,200 billion. We are discussing if we can spend 800 billion in 6 years on defense. You know, the question is, if we had actually spent that amount of money before 2022, after 2014, would we have 2022? You know, nobody can answer that, but at least those 1,200 billion, it was money that was vanished. The 800 billion would be in our industry.
Antonio, but let me just take the focus just on the money, because we keep coming back to we need more money. And I just want us to go back to we need scale. We need scale, because I've talked to some of our unicorns, some of the Portuguese unicorns, trying to understand, so why did you go to the US? Why didn't you stay in Portugal? Why didn't you stay in Europe? And it has never been about the money. It has never been about capital. So one is a health unicorn, and they just said, well, in the US, there's one system. You're in Europe, well, in Portugal there's one, but if I wanted to grow to Spain, then there are the regions. Each region works their own way. There's only 5 in Spain, but if you go to Germany, there's 16. And so how do you do this? How do you get scale? You don't. Talk to another one, a tech company, and they just go like, well, there's 27 different tech regulators in Europe. I would need to have set up 27 different offices just to work in Europe. I just went to the US, opened up 2 offices, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast. It's done. To cover the entire US, yeah, just for time differences, not for regulatory issues. So either we scale or we suffer the consequences, as you said.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for your thoughts. And I thank you all for listening to us. And thank you, and have a nice rest of the conference. Just before we go, we can have 5 minutes for questions from the audience. Please, if you want to pose a question, please state your name and where you come from, and go right ahead. Somebody will give you a microphone to pose your question. No takers. so far. Well, there's one. There's two. Please, sir, state your name and where you come from.
Hi, my name is Ibn. I live here, but I'm from South Africa. Thanks for the amazing insights so far. I'm just curious, if you had a magic wand and you could solve one problem that would have the most positive, consequential, second order, third order solutions that would come from that, which problem would you wave your wand at?
I leave this to Antonio.
Well, there are plenty of problems, as you mentioned, or as you inferred. But I think the first, if you look from an European perspective, first and foremost, we have to make the Union work at a pace that is compatible with the challenges that we face. That means better council and better constitution for Europe, which is the Treaty of Lisbon now. It will be called something else. We don't care. We just want it to work. And streamline the Commission.
Yeah, so scale, 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 union working. A second one would be to be able to change a little bit the European culture for one that celebrates success. We tend not to do that as well as the US, our US counterparts. I mean, everybody knows an American friend who's done much less than us, but they're also big of themselves, right? We don't do that. We should do that more often.
You know, if I can add something, one thing that we have to be aware in Europe, and we are the weakest link in all this, is the fact that we are all under hybrid warfare. And so making these decisions is going to be more difficult. I have a lot of educated friends, some of whom have responsibilities in terms of managing important companies, that are totally into this idea that when I say we need in Europe that works better, they say, well, but you're a globalist. You know, you belong to the central of globalism. So, you know, you're not a good person. You know, you were affected by the COVID vaccine that you took. These are not guys on the street with no relevance. Some of those guys have relevance. They have been totally indoctrinated by bullshit. Excuse my Dutch, not to say my French. And the fact is, a lot of people in Europe are going to be more against the solutions because they are being affected by a lot of the confusion that it's being deliberately mounted, also in the US and other places, but notably in Europe, where we have less defenses and where we need to do something that is collective, okay? So, you know, not that this, yeah, I think we can overcome that, but we have to be aware and take measures against that and convince the ones that have already fallen to the other side.
So let me answer aspirationally. So it's not a measure, it's something that in the past we had facts and they were true or they were wrong, okay? And this was actually, science is based on this. The way Western civilization developed fast and was successful was because of facts, right and wrong, okay? Now we have moved to good and bad. That's a feeling, that's emotion. When we have emotions, it's easy to polarize, it's easy to divide, and so on. And I think the problem of decision has to do with emotions. We are not discussing, we are not basing our decisions on facts and that's right, that's wrong. We are basing our decisions on that's good for me, what is good for me may not be good for you, and then we stop talking.
Thank you. Couldn't stop talking. Amazing panel. Two questions. The first is, what do you think of the 28th regime proposed in this a proposal of a plan? And the second is, what can private industry do despite all of this? And I see here in the room, we have utilities from Portugal, from Ireland, from Germany, from France. This seems like a good path. What do you guys think?
So 28th regime, great idea. And when I heard it the first time, I thought, finally, this is the union coming alive. Unfortunately, it's not. It's, so it's a great idea, but they still don't have any clue on how to implement it, number one. Number two, it's limited to startups and innovative companies, whatever some technocrat will decide is an innovative company. And so what happens? Are we just about to create another tax on growth and success, which is, you guys, startups, take advantage of the 28th regime, great. It helps you to scale in Europe, so you don't go to the US, but as soon as you're not a startup, and if you stop being an innovative company by whatever standards they come up with, you lose that. What happens then? Do you suddenly start to have to comply with 27 different regulations? How is that going to work? But maybe they can sort it out and apply it to everyone.
I think making small companies grow, it's very important. So we need to increase our ecosystem of new companies, good ideas, make them grow. So I think absolutely we should all be very supportive of that. Vis-a-vis the large companies, I think the problem is the usual. Not that I have any inside information, but usually the French, the German, the Italian, the Spanish, and now the Poles will think, but who are going to be the champions anyway? Is it going to be one of mine or one of yours? So we have to go a little bit past that. You know, see, for example, what's happening with Unicredit and Commerzbank. You know, the argument say, oh, but Commerzbank knows the German companies. Unicredit will that's a source of income for them, providing credit to those very same companies. So, but those arguments are over and over, will exist in Portugal, are being laid out in Portugal right now because of one bank that is going for an IPO. So, but I think we can overcome that. But anything that is fostering new players is very important, because I think new players bring new ideas, new way of doing things, and when new players grow, they help change the ecosystem in which we all live. So I think that's a very important thing, and I'm very supportive of that. And anybody that wants Europe to strive will have to be supportive of that, I think.
Antonio, very short.
Very short. I think that programs like free electrons, like Starter, are ways of companies to work together and try to move and try to create scale. But I also want to highlight initiatives like BRP. That problem are BRP is focused in Portugal, also lacks the scale. But probably a BRP on a European scale.
That's the ERT, European Roundtable. Sorry.
So, but okay, an ERT that is actually functional, that is actually working and pushing, I think it will help a lot.
Let me 1 second, because I didn't ask the second question, and I use EDP as an example. For 12 years, I was a board member of EDP Renewables, which is the renewable arm of EDP. It's a listed company. And we showed, and the EDP and the group was being very much under scrutiny and attack because it was a monopolistic company. And so the decision we took at the time was, well, let's go to other markets that are large markets, and let's depend on Portugal as little as we can. Why did I bring this story? Because capital is mobile, okay? The best example companies can give politicians is if we are not in a level playing field, if you don't provide us the conditions that others have and that compete with us in the global market, then we can always move. And I think that's a message that probably should be told a little bit more, because politicians, some know, but forget that capital is very movable. Even more so than people, and people are already very movable today.
Well, Thank you very much. You've been a most generous audience, and I thank you for your presence here. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you, Nuno, Pedro, Antonio, and Antonio, for joining us with this insightful panel. It's interesting to understand how geopolitics influences the way we act on innovation and how Europe needs to improve its competitiveness. Speaking of Europe, I think it's a perfect segue to talk about the best capital in Europe, which is Lisbon, definitely. I know some of you may not agree, but well, let's stick with that. And talking about Lisbon as an innovation capital and the work that Lisbon has been doing to become an innovation capital, we invited Sofia from the Unicorn Factory, which will give us some highlights on the journey that Lisbon has been doing and the view from the Unicorn Factory towards that. So, if the stage allows me, and I think we're getting there, let's welcome Sofia from Unicorn Factory. Sofia, the stage is yours.
Thank you, André. Hi, everyone. First of all, it's a true pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation. Be here, Open Day of EDP, one of the companies that has in hearts dream big. And so it's truly a pleasure to contribute and give as well here our point of view. So my name is Sofia. I'm part of Unicorn Factory Lisboa team. And let me tell you, there is no better time to talk about innovation than today and this amazing city. So I would like to invite you to do this journey with me where we will see a city that started 10 years ago to set its own foundations in innovation. And today, it's so embedded in innovation that it's become a kind of a unicorn. So super rare, valuable, and is shaping the story of global innovation. So welcome to Lisbon, of course, to the Unicorn City. As you all may know, in a couple of decades ago, not that in Portugal are international. And this has been super powerful to increase the ecosystem in Portugal, but also because we have built an amazing platform and network that allow these founders to thrive. So together between R&D centers, labs, incubators, accelerators, co-working space, so more than 250, we are giving the conditions, the environment for people to collaborate, to get to know each other, to be connected to the right people, to get aware of new opportunities. And this is helping, this give back community, this is basically pushing everyone together to progress, to evolve, to success. And this is a bit our here secret sauce. Plus, of course, we are very good on nurturing the future. We have very high education, one of the best rating for STEM graduates in Europe, a high proficiency in English. So if you look especially in the European panorama, we distinguish ourselves. As well, in the last years, there were some flexibilities for the government, for everyone who wanted to move to Lisbon and start a venture in Lisbon, so as the tech visas and also friendly tax policies. So we know that there are a lot of barriers, a lot of bureaucracy, administrative obstacles, but here we would like to think that we also think as a startup. So we are aware of the obstacles, but we really need to know how to navigate between those obstacles and try to find solutions among the current constraints, and as well try to influence those constraints to build a better city, a better country. So yeah, so Lisbon is no longer a hidden gem as it was before. It's no longer as a secret to be kept. So today we have an amazing ecosystem that grew 26 times since 2016, more than 1,000 startups, 2,000 founders. On 2022, 80% of the investment made were from international companies, and I believe in the past 2 years, we are still looking for the numbers, the national investment also increased due to benefits that the government has made and facilitation as the CFIT fund. So just in our programs, the scale-ups that are part of it, raised in the last 2 years almost 400 million euros. So this number is getting a boom really fast as well. The international talent already mentioned, we were considered top 1 for digital nomads. We are attracting a lot of great talent all over the world, as well from tech companies, from the US, and what we are trying to do is to try to attract these talents to our programs, to support our startups, for them as well to be learned and have them as a mentors, coaching, experts, to really connect everyone that can have a true power to enable here the ecosystem. We are also home of the Web Summit, of course, since 2017. This was a huge difference from us. We started having more international attention, and this was important, especially for our startups. And everything combined together gave us, for the first time, and we tried before, the European Capital of Innovation, an award given annually by the European Commission. So we are in the right path. We are in the right momentum. We know Lisbon and innovation are a hot topic, and we know that we have to act now with this sense of urgency that this will not take forever. So we really need to use this moment and create our basis for a more sustainable future. So, as well, a superpower that we have, that it's in our Portuguese DNA, that we start 500 years ago as explorers, is the diversity, our capacity to be open, to embrace new cultures, and work together with different backgrounds, different type of talents. And here in Lisbon is exactly what has happened. So we are welcoming all these nationalities. And here is Lisbon, where it's super easy for a Portuguese founder hire an engineer from Africa and be invested by a Brazilian VC. So not all the places are like this, and this diversity that we have is truly a superpower, and is a kind of celebration that we start long time ago. So at Unicorn Factory Lisboa, what we would like us to see is exactly the home of the believers. So the home of everyone who is trying to drive innovation further, no matter where they are, where they come from. If they are here to work on the ecosystem, we are as well here to help them to this path. So we are a non-profit organization supported by the City Council of Lisbon, and basically we are a platform of innovation, which means that we are a set of programs and physical hubs. And our mission is really to support as many startups as possible, to start, to scale, and become global players. And in order to do that, we have 6 different areas. So we start as well to nurture a little bit our future with education. We run different innovation programs, starting in primary schools, starting at 6 years old, upon university, and we also work really closely a lot to university and to support spin-offs that can come out of these universities. Then for our startups, we have 2 types of programs. The first one is focused on early stage, so for startups that already have a team and are building their MVP, their minimum viable product. So we have a program that supports them throughout this journey, throughout a year, and today here we have more than 250 startups. Then our second program is for growth stage, so startups that already have a team, revenue, and are looking to international expansion. And this program, we call it Scaling Up, was also critical for us to move from a more early stage ecosystem to a more mature ecosystem. Today we have 60 scale-ups that were part of this program. In the international, we are also looking supporting international companies, techs, founders that want to move to Lisbon, and we support them throughout the journey. And I can tell you, besides the 70 tech companies that I mentioned, there are more to come. Maybe some of them are smaller, but we are trying to give them the conditions to grow out of Lisbon. The fifth area is innovation district, which is basically the way that we distribute innovation throughout the city, and there is different specialized hubs inside each innovation district. And at last, the social innovation, where here we run pilots directly with the city council to address the main challenge that the city is facing. The first edition was focused on integration of migrants, access to healthcare, and quality of education. So there are different areas that we work on in order to act in the entire value chain of innovation. Regarding the innovation districts, really, what we want is not innovation concentrated in a unique place. We would like to see innovation everywhere. So we have 4 main areas around Lisbon. The green one, which is the first, is our tech campus. Beato Innovation District is a complex of 18 buildings, and is really where everything about innovation and main events happening. The second one is the orange area, where we have Saldanha Innovation Districts, where we run 3 hubs, one on gaming, another on sustainability, another on engineering, together with the FinTech House and Technic Innovation Center from Instituto Superior Técnico. In the purple area, we are managing two hubs. So the first one focused on Web3, the second on AI. And at last, in the downtown, in the dark blue, we have our early stage hub, where all the startups that take our early stage program are, and it's a building of 6 floors. So a lot of startups are there and a lot of innovation as well. So in the past 2 years, we grew 5 times. So now we are working with more than 250 startups per year. More than 50% of seed rounds in Portugal that happen are from startups that are a portfolio. And our international presence has also increased exponentially. So today we have more than 50% of international startups. We also receive delegations from all over the world to present them what is the ecosystem in Lisbon. And at last, in the last 2 years, we impacted 3,000 students with 9 innovation programs to foster innovation, critical thinking, creativity, so all these skills that are critical for the future. So, of course, we are not doing that alone. We are a platform where everyone join us. It's about having the right mentors, about the right investors, the right ecosystem partners, the right corporate partners, the right academia partners. So what we do is we bring them together and we find them the synergies and the path to support the startups for them to scale and become successful. So I would also like to thank you to everyone that has been part of this incredible journey. And we are a company from people to people. Of course, I also believe that our strength is to be very closely to every one of the key players, namely the founders. So in order to support them throughout this journey, we also super close to all the corporates and investors to really understand their needs, and also close to all the international players in order to really value what are our potential international opportunities. So we already consider that our blueprint for innovation. We know there's still a long way to go. So just like to leave here an invite for you to join us and continue growth Lisbon as a main city of innovation. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sofia, for the presentation. And hopefully everyone was convinced on why they should open their next startup or their next big thing in Lisbon. We're getting to the end of our event, which on one side means that my job here is done. And also thank you for keeping up with us. We know that we are 40 minutes late, but we're getting to the end as lunch is being served as well. And to conclude these, I would invite Antonio Coutinho for some closing words, some closing remarks, and then we can move into lunch. Antonio, the stage is yours.
So, first of all, I would like to really thank you for being here, for taking the time. I think you understand the day today was useful for you to understand how important we take these programs within our company. And this problem cannot occur if you don't participate, if people don't take the time, the energy, and the effort to make this happen. So once again, thank you very much for being here, and let's work together.